Okay, so I'm shooting this video today for people that do solar installations or their own solar installations. I just want to close the door so we don't get this sunlight coming through the door. So here's my solar system installed behind my door, and down the bottom here I have my batteries. 2 E500s, Freedom 1 batteries. And the law states that one should have a DC isolator in the battery supply to the inverter, which is this little thing over here on the wall, the left box. As you can see, the positive and negative from the battery are passing through that. Now, the issues I had with this was that I originally put in what they call a DC isolator or an isolator fuse type knife switch fuses, and you pull and the fuses come out when you open the lid, and I'll show you that now. But since then I've changed the DC isolator to a DC circuit breaker, which you can see there. It's a double pole 125 amp DC circuit breaker. And the reason for that was because one morning when we got up, our passageway was full of smoke. And eventually I got to the DC isolator, felt that it was extremely hot, and it was burning. Had not caught a light, but was actually hot enough to produce smoke. And obviously with something in your home like this, the danger exists that if it catches a light, you lose your home. So let's go over to where I've got the old DC isolator, fuse type isolator, and discuss that in a bit more detail. So this is the DC isolator type that I had installed. And if you know this unit, it's, as you can see, the rating is 160 amp. It's actually 3-pole, which means it's designed for 3-phase, and it is, they talk about AC on the label there, or they talk about a rated voltage of 400 to 690 volts at 160 amps and a frequency of 50 hertz. So in my opinion as well, not really rated for DC, but as we would be using less DC than 160 amps typically, I felt it would be a good enough type isolator. And so here's the one that I actually had installed here, and I've pulled it apart so that we can show you what actually happened. If you look in the lid, you can see it's extremely burnt, and a lot of even the bottom section cover plate I threw away because it was too brittle and breaking into pieces. But as you can see, it has these clamps for the knives on the fuses. So here's a typical fuse, and as you can see, they have these knife contacts, and so when you close the lid, the knife contact of the fuse pushes between the clamp as you push it down, and it goes between the clamps. And originally when I stripped the thing, I thought, well, maybe it's not making good contact on those clamps. So I stripped the whole unit, cleaned the clamps up, made sure there was enough pressure on them, and took the damaged fuse out, put a new fuse in, put it all back into service. And within a month we had the same problem. And I changed the fuses. I stepped them up to 160 amp fuses, which you see here. And then it happened again, so I decided this is not a good idea, and we will end up probably losing our home if we continue this way. And the more I looked into it and looked at it, I then realized what had actually happened. So what they've done inside these fuses is they've attached the copper at the top end to the knife. But at the bottom end, what they actually did is they clamped the copper between the porcelain and the metal plate here when they're sealing the battery, not the battery, when they're sealing the fuse. And of course, as this heats up and gets hotter and hotter, the resistance between the copper and the plate becomes higher and higher. And the higher the resistance, of course, the hotter it becomes, until eventually you lose contact altogether. But that takes quite a while. The issue is that it could cause a fire in your home. So this tells me that this type of fuse is really not designed to carry high current for any duration. And when I say high current, I know for a fact that I've never drawn more than 90 amps continuously off my batteries. And so even at 90 amps for 45 minutes a day, why should that fuse get so hot that it can melt and burn the casing, the plastic casing that it's mounted in? Anyway, this is the reason I thought I should do this video, to prevent any fire hazards in other people's homes. Be safe. Thank you. Bye.